Hello student, today we are going to start this computer application subject that is paper code 165. It's an optional subject which we have from our school for class 9 and 10. Those students who are going to take computer application, you can watch this video for computer class. I'm telling you again, subject name is computer application and subject code is 165, and for textbook we are going to use Saraswati computer application class 9. This textbook is based on this new CBSE syllabus. I will give you the link later on for the video, and this is YouTube channel link for next video update. You can subscribe this channel. Okay, let's start our first chapter, that is computing technology. It's a summary, the one which we have already learned in previous class. Summary about computer. Computer we use in different field, in many field. So the word computer comes from this compute, that is called, it means calculate. A brief history that we used to learn in previous class and smaller class like class 5 and 4. We have already learned that computer comes from the device in early years like abacus and Pascaline and all. After that, the father of computer, that is Charles Babbage, has developed two device, the French engine and analytical engine. After that, all this previous version of computer, we can call it as previous version also, these devices used to calculate. So computer derived from the word compute, means to calculate. So nowadays in modern time we use in ticketing for airplane, railway, bank, school. We use computers in our school for office purposes or teaching, and university and different type of field we use in modern days. So what is computer? Computer is an electronic device which take input from the user. Here input from the user means the one which is going to command the computer for that purpose. He is going to give the command to the computer, that is called user. Process it and give you the required result in specific format from the definition. We know that the computer mainly work on the principle. So computer here, we know it as, it's an electronic device which require electricity, and you can tell that mainly work after giving an instruction by the user or a people. So it works in this format, that is input, process and output. This one also we have already done in smaller class, that is input. We have to give the instruction to the computer. Without giving an instruction, computer doesn't do anything. Computer will be in ideal position, it won't do anything. So you have to give the instruction to the computer. So what we are going to do, we have to get input, means taking the input in the form of instruction and data. Here this is what the textbook is saying. Here the computer is going to take the input from the user in the form of instruction or data, the one which you are going to enter from a keyboard or mouse or many input devices. You can use any input devices. So we are going to give the input like in ATM machine. Look, when you type the password and all, it's the input. So after that it will process. After giving the teaching this one, I'll give you an example later on. Process, after that, after giving the input, it will be the computer will process the system and it will give the output, means it will give output as a printout format or whatever the situation or whatever the command or program. According to that it will give the output. It may be in monitor or printer or anything. Let's take an example in an ATM machine, the one which you use to take out money in day-to-day life. So what is What is the input? We used to insert our ATM machine, ATM card in the ATM machine and used to do the process. So we need to enter the pin, and after entering pin and all, we have to enter the amount and all. After processor, after input, that is called input, we are giving the input or instruction to the ATM machine, and after it will process, it will take some time, its internet connection and all. With the connection and all, it will go to the server and my bank account and all. After that deduction, and it will give out the money, the one which we have entered the amount. So that is output. Here it will not print out, here it will not print out for any paper or anything. It will give money, and it will give provider receipt. When there is no paper, then receipt will not be there. So it may not, it's not only for the computer, electronic devices, mainly mobile phone and all, everything, it's work on this principle, that is input, process and output. First the user will give the input, and it will process to the device, and it will give the output, whichever the user has given the command. According to that, it will give the output. That is to work on this principle. Here it's mentioned like basic operation of a computer. So all the operation, all the function which we work on the computer, it's basically done in this process. So next one is characteristic and limitation of computer. So we have in smaller class, in previous classes, we have already learned some basic characters of computer. Now here we are going to learn again deep more into that. The characteristic of a computer can be summarized as follows. That is speed and time. Computer, we know that computer is very fast, works faster and calculate and more accurate than human. Human can also calculate, but it's faster than human. So how we are going to measure it? We know we have a time, so we are going to measure in that time. So the minimum time that we, smallest time we know is like in day-to-day life, second. Second is the fastest where human being used to work. But in computer it's more faster than that, so we are going to divide this time. So how computer speed depend on the type of processor that is used. So it develop different type of processor. It depend on that processor how it's going to work fast, and the multitasking purpose and all. Multitasking means simultaneously it can work multiple tasks, or it can process multiple job. That is called multitasking, and it depends on that processor. Good type of processor can perform billions of operation in 1 second. A very good type of processor, super fast one, can calculate like billions of operation, that is tasks or job, in a second. So how we are going to measure all that? We are going to measure in gigahertz. That is, we are going to measure the speed of the computer. First one is millisecond, that is thousand, one by thousand of a second. We have to divide the second into 1,000 times, and that is 1 millisecond. And one a microsecond is, we have to divide a second into 1 millionth. We have to divide a second into 1 million, and we are going to measure with that. So speed and time, it's very fast, we all know that. Now a nanosecond, a billionth, 1 billion a second, we have to divide over as 1 second with the billionth, 1 billion, and the fraction of second is called nanosecond, and picosecond means 1 trillion. A second we are going to divide in divided by 1 trillion, and the time which we get is called 1 a picosecond. It's a very small fraction of second or fraction of time which we are going to use for calculation of computer speed. And accuracy, we all know that computer perform a different tasks, and it calculate according to the command or algorithm we gave to the computer. Computer perform million of operations within a fraction of a second without any error. That is called accurate. We all know this property. And next one is automation. Automation means according to time when the user give the command to the computer or device. It used to work after giving the command. And when we give more command after that, it automatically calculate one after another. That is called automation, that property. It can work automatically one after another task. That is called automation in computer. Once a set of program is fed into a computer, then a computer can take decision automatically without interfering the user. The example, pen driver are automatically detected and loaded called autoplay. Here they give an example. When we inserted a pen drive or CD in a USB, so the pen drive automatically open, and sometimes we can disable that function, but it loads automatically from the pen drive and open that folder. So that is called autoplay. That is an feature available in computer which we can keep it automatically open when we insert pen drive or CD in an external storage device. Next one is reliable. How far can we rely on a computer? Error free. That is, reliable means that they do not do their tasks properly and inconsistently. Computer communication and component are very reliable and has very less failure rate. So here in reliability means the work which a computer or the tasks which a computer going to perform is less error free. Very less. It used to give some error sometimes, but most of the time 99% it's error free, and all the time it's correct. So we can rely on a computer. That's why mainly nowadays in people are using computer for many tasks and purposes. Now the point versatility is means that uh, it can perform multiple tasks. You must have heard the word multitasking in computer. That is the property of this one. Versatility. It performs various tasks at the same time or multiple tasks in the same time simultaneously. So like this, it's one of the property. Like they are giving example here. Like you are reading this web page and downloading two files from the internet. Like in computer, we can download file in the background and we can read this one. Okay, we can read like this and I can play some music or I can do some work from internet stuff and all. I can read by putting this aside. So like this, in computer we can do multiple tasks. This is called versatility. And storage, we have already know that we can store a huge amount of data in computer by increasing our storage capacity. In computerized system, it is very large amount of data can be stored for future reference called hard disk, pen drive, and memory card, etc. So in computer, hard disk is already installed in our computer internally, and we are going to store all our important data in this one hard disk. For transferring from one file to another, we are going to use this memory card and pen drive and all. So comparing with human being, it can store huge amount of data and it never forgets until and unless you delete that one. Secrecy. Secrecy means by keeping a password, no one can access that file or information or data from the computer. Login system called password system. The login system here. So like in ATM, the one which we have used example that ATM. In ATM, we use a ATM pin code. Until and unless if you find a ATM card also, if you don't know the ATM pin, you cannot access that card or you cannot take out that money. Like that in computer also, if you don't know this login, someone kept a login password and all. If you don't know the login password and all, you cannot access the computer or file. Diligency, it's work for hours without tiredness. These are some properties of computer. Let's go to the next point. So before we have already discussed this good point about computer. Now here are some limitation in computer also. Computer can only perform or can only do the tasks which user instruct after that. After the user instruction or after the user give a program a particular task to do, until and unless when the task is over, it will not do any work. It will be in idle position. Can only perform tasks that is been programmed to do. So after the program which we have given to the computer is over, then it will not do anything until and unless we give another program. So that is the limitation of computer and cannot do any work without instruction from the user. And when instruction means when we click by using the mouse also, it's giving an instruction. So with the use of instruction, after without the instruction from the user, it will not do anything. Means when I move my mouse like this, I'm giving instruction that this pointer will go left side and this pointer will go right side. This is the instruction which I am doing. So until and unless the user give instruction, it won't do anything. It won't move the mouse or pointer automatically. It execute the instruction as specified by the user. It will only do when the user give the instruction. Computer are not intelligent nowadays. It's a computer cannot think, but nowadays people are developing AI that is automatically it's auto program, pre-designed or pre-programmed before to think or to according to the situation it will develop the output and it will decide automatically. Like we used to learn in previous class in Q basic, we used to learn like OR get and all. If this condition doesn't satisfy, then go for this condition, like that it will swap the condition and think for a new one. Like that we can develop this AI technology and all. We cannot learn from their experience. We are not going to learn from a computer experience. So let's go to the next point. Component of a computer. Here we are going to learn all the parts of the computer. We have already discussed in previous class or previous classes. Now let's start. Computer is a component, has different parts, and by combining those component or part, they work together to give the result for the user by executing all the data and all after processing. First one is primary memory. Primary memory, for example, RAM. It's temporarily store the data. So how does it know that it temporarily store? I will explain you. When we work on a Paint or MS Word, while working, you can type all the data or application. Let's say an application. While after opening this MS Word, I'm going to type an application. This application before installing, this application before saving it's stored in RAM. Before saving, while you are typing, it's stored in, okay, let me say, this is save one. I have already saved. I'm going to open a new one. Okay, new word, like this. This new word, I can type all the information out here. After typing this one, I have not saved this file. So when I click on close, it will notify me that you want to save it or don't want to save it. So before saving the file, this one, the one which I have already typed my data, this is storing in RAM. This is for RAM is for multitasking and running the processes before saving. After saving it, it will go to the secondary memory. It will save in secondary memory. So that's the difference. While working, you are working in a computer or device. It's working in primary memory. When you save it later on, when you keep it for a permanent storage, it will go to secondary memory. So I don't want to save it. So now this file has been removed from RAM. It's deleted. So like that, when I suddenly shut down my computer also, it will not save that file. So the one which you are storing in RAM, it will not save in your computer until and unless you save it in a secondary memory like hard disks and all. So let's go to the next point, that is secondary storage device. Secondary storage device, for example, that is hard disk, CD, DVD, pen drive and all. These are all secondary storage devices. This we are going to use for permanent storage, for future use. It's already written over here also. And next one is input device. We already know that input device, the one which we are going to give the command or instruction, all the input we are going to enter into the computer is by using that input device. Example like keyboard, mouse, joystick, camera, etc. And output device is that which we are going to get the result from the computer, that is like screen, printer and etc. other things. So these are all output devices we used to get from the computer, the result out which come from the computer after processing it. And central processing unit, that is CPU, it's the brain of the computer. All the execution part, all the instruction processing and all the computing which we are going to do in the computer is work from this CPU, central processing unit. Before we have studied, like it's mentioned above, according to the processor, I think in previous, okay, speed here, according to the processor, based upon the processor, it's faster. So here the CPU, it's that thing. When we use uh, costlier, the more faster you get the CPU, it costlier. So with the high-end CPU processor, we can compute our programming, or we can do the calculation or the multitasking and all. We can do it very fast in the computer. So let's go to the next one. Okay, operating system. It acts as a platform between the user and the computer components. It acts as a platform where user used to communicate with the computer component. We are going to work everything, the one which we are going to do all the processing and everything in this platform, that is operating system. Different type of operating system are there, like Macintosh, Microsoft, and everything, those and all. So application software is very easy, that with the requirement of the user we can install the application software, which means that it is going to give a specific result for your specific tasks. If I want to play a game, I don't want to install this, we don't need to install this Microsoft Word or Microsoft Office, until and unless if he is going to work for this office and all, then he need to install this one, Microsoft Office. That is called this application software. Next one is input and output device, input and output unit. In previous classes we have learned this input and output unit, but here in detail we are going deep into detail. Let's see. Computer uses input device for entry purposes, data entry purposes, that we all know that by using keyboard and all, we used to input our data into the computer or electronic devices. So this input data, we can, some of the data we put directly into the computer, but some data we can directly communicate with this computer and the user. Look here, some input devices allow direct communication between the user and the computer, while the other require data to be recorded and on the input medium and follow function to perform by an input unit. So I'll give you an example for this one. It accepts the list of instruction of data from the outside world. It converts this instruction into a data into computer acceptable form. It supply the converted instruction and data to the computer system for further processing. Look, the one which we do programming. While we are programming, let's say an example for QBasic. QBasic, the one which we are using, that language is for user purpose. User means we are going to give the instruction to the computer by using QBasic language, that is our user language, and it will be converted by using a software instruction into the computer, and it will process and give the result and again convert it into the user friendly language, that is medium will be in English or that thing. So it's been converted between the process like this. The input which we are giving to the computer, it's been converted and again. So here the input medium means, in that example, in that previous example, QBasic, the input medium means that QBasic language, the one which we are entering or giving instruction to the computer, that medium is called, that QBasic language, the one which we are using, is called input medium. By using that medium, we are giving instruction to the computer. So we will learn again later on in input and output devices chapter. Similarly, these input devices, output devices are also the interface between the computer and the user. This input device and output device interact together and going to give the result of our output device, output to that output device. It's an interface which is going to work together between the user and the computer. These devices take machine coded output result from the processor and converted them into a form that can be used by human being. So the output which is given from the CPU, the output result which is coming from the CPU, is being converted again back to the human language code, that is English, and it is giving out the result in that way. But the processing which are done in CPU will be in machine language, zeros and one. The following functions are performed by an output unit. It accepts the result produced by the computer which are in coded form and hence cannot be easily understood by us. This is the thing, that machine language, the CPU will give the result in machine language and it will be converted back again so that human being can understand that result. It convert this coach result to human acceptable or readable form, that is English or maybe other language also. It supply the converted result to the outside world by using a printer or monitor. We can see the result. Now next topic is CPU. We all know that it's the brain of the computer, central processing unit. That we all know it's like brain of the computer. The heart of any computer system is called as a microprocessor. In this today's modern world, we are using this technology microprocessor which perform all the computational work, multi-purpose work, i5, i7, 10th generation and all. Calculation and processing data inside this CPU, brain of the computer. Sometimes it's refer central processor or nerves center or brain. So these are the different names which we used to call the CPU, but commonly known as a processor. Commonly known as in computer language, it is commonly known as processor. In different stages of study, we used to call in smaller class like class 1 and 2, we used to call them as a brain of the computer like that. In different stages we used to name them indifferently, but usually we used to say as a processor. CPU is a combination of ALU and CU and the memory. Without the CPU, your computer doesn't respond or perform any activity as you need to do. So without this CPU or brain of the computer, this processing unit, it's processed under this microprocessor. So without this, we cannot work anything in the computer. With the failure of this one processor, computer used to hang a lot. When this become hot, computer used to hang a lot also. So the more better CPU processor, the more faster the computer will be. So there are different type of processor according to the speed and all. We have also learned how we used to calculate this computer speed in the first page, that is here, speed and the time. This faster the computer, the better the CPU. This one we are going to measure by using this gigahertz in computer. So this is the picture of central processing unit, that is CPU, that is given in figure 1.3. If you have textbook with you, then you can also refer to that one. Now let's summarize what we have learned in today's class. We have learned about this characteristic and limitation of computer. Characteristic in the first point, that speed and time. Computer is very fast than the human. Accuracy, automatic system, reliability, which we can rely or we can trust the computer, and versatility, multitasking, storage, very large amount of data we can store, and secure, privacy, and it will do the work without tiredness. And limitation, here are the limitation we have learned. And components of computer: primary memory, secondary storage device, input device, output device, CPU, central processing unit. And next one, in input output and this one, operating system and application software, application which we can install with the requirement of the user. If there is a requirement we can use, we need to install into our computer. And input and output unit, which we give instruction to the computer, is been transferred or is been transformed into a different language, machine language, and it will be again processed in the processor, that is CPU, and it will be converted back to the human acceptable language, readable form. So this is the CPU. So what does the CPU do? We will learn this one in next class. So this is a typical CPU, that is Given example is Core i7, Core i5, i7. There are many CPU processor. By using this one, we need to process our tasks here in the CPU, and it will be giving back us in the output format in a monitor or printable form. So in next class we will learn what does the CPU do. Thanks for watching till here.